What's going on, traders? Welcome back. I have a very exciting episode for you today. We're going to be doing some chart work. I'm going to be showing you how to prepare your watch lists more effectively and simple little tips that you can do to make sure that you're clearer with your trading decisions. I'm also going to be sharing with you some good news later on in the episode about our funding program. We've had more success. I'm so proud of the guys and girls in the community and how they're growing every step of the way. So we'll get to that a little bit later. And what I really want to do with this episode is essentially prepare you more effectively so you've got more clarity in your day-to-day decisions in the markets. After all, the clearer you are and the simple that you keep it, the more effective and more better your trading results will actually be. So without further ado, let's jump into the chart work. Right guys, so before we get into the chart work, sit, stand, desk, absolute game changer. Just your physiology when you stand up is different, and switching things up is awesome. So for those of you that are interested in getting one, huge advocate of it. Right, let's get into the chart work. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to make sure that you guys and girls are as clear as possible. Some people that have 28 pairs on watch and more, and then commodities and all these different things and crypto, etc. So no wonder why you keep making mistakes, because you deviate. You indulge in this deviation of your plan consistently and wonder why. You look back in hindsight and you keep repeating the loop. So avoid that. Simple watch list. So as you can see here, again, this is a longer watch list than what we'd have. Sometimes it's much shorter. It's really dependent on what the market gives. Sometimes the market is a bit slower, sometimes it's faster, and that's natural. We want variation. So giving you a prime example. So we were looking at pound CAD. We had the midweek market review yesterday. I was talking about this, so I'll just show you guys here. So pound Kiwi, dollar yen, and pound CAD. So as you can see here, from a simplistic point of view, what was we looking at? We were looking for sell opportunities here on pound CAD. Clear daily structure, we're looking for a clear target down here. Whether it fulfills the full trade or not, that remains to be seen. It's the trade idea that's important. So we're looking for this move. So we've identified a key value area. So how you guys can keep it simple. I'm in pound CAD right now, got about 1% locked in, and we are running quite nicely actually. So on the 1 hour chart, let's see how far we're running. So we're currently running at 3.3. So first sort of target area is 4 to 1. And then looking for the bigger target as identified at around 16.7. We may not always get that trade in one move. However, it's about looking at the bigger picture. But can you see there was nothing complicated about this position? There was nothing complicated about all the positions this month. So currently sitting at 15.1 for the month. Had a few missed trades, which would have taken me to a lot more than that. Mismanagement on Aussie yen as well would have taken me to way over 20%, but very happy with that across the board. But what you see here is simplicity. So what you want to understand, guys, is that when there is too many decisions or confluence that you need to take a trade, there's more margin for error. When you have a system that's predicated on taking 4 trades or 5 trades a day, more margin for error. If you're dependent on a session every single time, more margin for error. So you want to remove as much decision making out of it as possible. We're going to keep it as systematic as possible, as we always do, but there's a small element of experience that you always need in the markets, because you can't be so rigid 100%, because price action is unique. The market evolves and you have to evolve with it in the right increments. So what you want to understand is that if you only have, let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 criteria points, whatever your system you're trading is, to actually be able to take a trade, that's much easier than you, let's say, taking 4 trades a day and ensuring that with life, with your job, with everything that you do, that you're going to be in the highest flow state, making good trading decisions in the right state of mind every single time. What's the chances of you doing that? Probably quite low. So no wonder people get bad results, is because they're emotionally all over the place. How can you expect yourself to do that? So what we wanted to do is make sure that for people to scale up, which people are doing right now in our fund, is to make sure that there is as much guesswork gone as possible and keeping it really simple with their routine, flexible. They can do this with their day-to-day life. They can have a job. Nothing complicates that, and that's what it's really about. So I want you guys to think about that for sustainability wise. How you want to live your life in the future? Do you want to be checking the charts every hour, every 2 hours, or do you want flexibility at scale? So with pound CAD, as you can see, very simple. I've just neatened this up, so we previously had this in here. Essentially, we've broken out of this structure. We're retesting the back end of that. We've got a lovely structure here that we follow at Falcon quite a number of times. And from this perspective, if we break the low, great. I'll be looking at opportunities below this structure now. I won't be taking any opportunities here. Falcon guys, you'll know. So we break below this structure, I'll be looking for a pattern here and I will continue to scale in. If not, I've got 1% profit locked in. if it pulls back to my entry and develops into something else, I've still locked in profit. And that's what it's really about, protecting your risk, but then also not getting over infatuated about an idea. What newer traders tend to do, and even intermediate, to be honest, that are struggling to break through to consistency, is that they will be obsessed with trying to call something. They want to call the top, they want to call the bottom. Follow the trend of the market, keep things simple, trade what works, and that's it. So you might be wondering, right, so how do I keep it simple? Well, really easy. What you want to do is, let's say you're too zoomed in most of the time and you're struggling to kind of identify areas in which that you want to get involved in a trade, and you're constantly deviating from your plan. What you often find that happens is when you're on too lower time frames, too zoomed in. So double click a line, ray line, support, whatever you're trading, right? Just leave a note. So for example, we could leave, let's say, we'll do POI, right? I'll actually do that in caps. Right, so let's say you've got this here and you've woken up in the morning, you're about to go to work, your mind's all over the place, you've got loads of things that you're thinking about, and you just jump onto the charts. Maybe you click on your phone and you're not clear, you're too zoomed in, you're even on lower time frames than this, and then what happens is you start taking trades randomly in these areas, and you don't realize it when you're too zoomed in. You tend to do that. However, if you just got a tiny little reference point here, you can put a box, you can put an annotation, put whatever you want, but use something simple that you can see that prompts you, right, this is my point of interest. Right, this is my point of interest. This is a high value area. This is my daily target. So then what you're not doing is just jumping in, getting emotional, thinking, oh, the market's moving, I need to jump in, because hold on a minute. No, this is my area of interest. Why are you looking at the charts? Why are you filling out a deal ticket around here if price has not reached that area yet? So you understand where most people lose is because they just jump in out of emotion. They think, well, fear of missing out. Why? What if price just sells off now? I'll just get in now. Well, if you actually had something to prompt you that, right, this is your point of interest, it stops you making consistently bad decisions. I'm not saying it's going to stop you indefinitely, but it will reduce the chances of you making impulsive decisions. And that's where most people tend to lose. It's not that you can't read the charts. It's not that you can't see a real simple, consistent entry like this. It's because you get emotional. And that's what most traders do. And I was there for years, I would do this. Even though I knew, right, this is the area I want to trade, I'd still see the market move. I'd get excited. I would fear that I wouldn't get involved. You'd have an unconscious fear that maybe we don't get another entry, so you just jump in regardless, and you justify it to yourself of this bad behavior that comes back to haunt you at a later stage. So you want to build a good success habit. So real simple one here on pound CAD, and from a management perspective, we know exactly what we need to do. I've got my target and we'll see how far it runs. So that's pound CAD, nice and simple as you can see. Pound Kiwi, I did cover that as well at the top. Right, so pound Kiwi, we're looking for these areas, we're looking for potential trade ideas at that top. So that's from yesterday, pound Kiwi. So what I like to do as well, so from those of you when you're building your watch lists, to keep things simple so you're not flicking through every single thing. Once you've looked at and identified the cleaner pairs, just flag them. So it's really simple, just go on here and just flag whichever color you like that prompts you, that's the ones that you're looking for. I like to keep these ones blue, these are on my radar. And then once I'm actually in a trade, then switch that over to green. So it's nice and simple, because then I know this is the ones that I'm in actually live, and these are the ones that I'm looking for. So color code them however you want. So with pound Kiwi, what was we looking for? Well, you can see we were looking for these areas around the top of that structure. That would be our first point of interest. There was actually an entry that some of the guys got involved in, which was literally here. So stop above there, entry was there. They know their criteria of where they're getting involved. What's interesting about this now, to keep things simple as well, I know how I'm going to look to get involved. I'll be on the lower time frames. I know exactly what I'm looking for, and we are establishing a pattern. We actually might get this today. So I'll be establishing a pattern here that I'll be looking to get involved at the top to take this to the downside. I've already got the first part of the run. If we don't get that set up, I won't be involved. You can't take things personally. Sometimes the market has other ideas. Nothing is 100%. But from a target perspective, can you see how simple to keep it? If you've done the same thing, right? So double click, right? This is your point of interest. And so you know, don't make any trading decisions here. Don't make them here from that tiny rejection that you think, right, maybe it starts to sell off a little bit, you start getting emotional. You're in an entry, you've already been taken out for a loss. What's the chances that you then don't take that trade? Well, you've already got fear now, because you've already had the pain of doing something you shouldn't have done, because you acted out of emotion, because you had some random line here that you thought, well, it's rejected, so I need to get involved. No, you have to look at the bigger picture and be clear. For example, clear, 1, 2, 3. We know exactly what we're looking for. 1, 2, 3. Entry is what it is. That's the first point, right? I favored pound CAD, so in that position now, and then I'll look for this one today, which is playing out nicely. So for those that are in this position, they know why. But can you see this is just very, very simple stuff that I want you to understand here. This is not strategy. Strategy is something completely different. This is just one structure. There's variations as to why we would take that trade here with these sections that we've got versus, let's say, something that looks similar to this but doesn't have the right structure to it. So again, that's a whole different ballgame when you get into strategy, you get into trade setups, etc. But what I really want you to take away from this episode is simplicity always wins, always has done. Something you can test for over 30 years, how we trade the markets consistently. And that is something you can put a lot of faith and confidence in with the data, with the numbers, for you to say, right, so what's my job as a trader? Identify the decent value areas, know my setups, and be crystal clear on what I'm going to do, but what I'm not going to do. So what I'm not going to do is zoom in and try and take trades here because I fear it might drop without me. I'm going to stay disciplined because I've got my POI there. And that's what I want you to start doing, guys. If you need to label them up and keep it simple, great. If you need to put a little box there to remind you that, right, this is the area that you're in, great. Keep it simple. Doesn't matter how you trade, you can utilize what I'm telling you here. So just quickly, guys, if you're enjoying the content that we put out on the channel, make sure that you stay in the loop by commenting, subscribing to the channel, turn the notifications bell on so you're always in the loop of the content that we're pushing out on a regular basis. We appreciate the support, and make sure you utilize the resources that we put out. So check all the links in the description. They will help you out massively on your trading journey. Right, now back to the video. So that was what we kept for pound Kiwi, so I'll see how that plays out today. And then we've got dollar yen from the midweek as well. So dollar yen was looking for potential short-term buys to the upside, and this will be the area that I'll be looking for. Alternatively, there is a potential, I covered that in the midweek, that we can head up towards this area here, which is why we was considering a buy here anyway, for price to then move towards that area. But again, left that one alone, favored pound CAD in that, running nicely. So now we would be looking for a particular pattern to then take that to the upside, or we would wait for a message from the market, we would see price come back in, and then we'd look for a particular structure to then short that bigger picture and that 1, 2, 3 that we're looking at across the board. So real simple. And then that way I can get on with my day to day. So for example, today I've got a very, very busy structure today. I've got lots of things to do. I'll probably be working up until about sort of 10, 11 p.m. and then I'll head to bed. Got a really, really solid routine that has been working very well since the start of January as well, and the start of this year. And that is all I need to do. And then that way, I don't feel this need to impulsively jump into the markets or indulge in trades that are not there, because I know exactly what I'm looking for. I can already tell this is at least maybe 6 to 8 hours away, or 3 hours away if something drastically changes. But I can check the market every 3 to 4 hours, like most of you can when you're working a job. Every hour, every 2 hours, sometimes that can be a bit tight, create a lot of anxiety of always being a slave to the charts. That's not how you want to live a sustainable life in the future. So very, very simple tips here. So have a quick look through. Euro dollar. So again, euro dollar, if you really wanted to, these are really simple things, by the way. So you could just put, you want to keep it very simple to stop getting involved in positions. Right. So this is your value area. So don't trade until we break the value area. There's a small detail here of that particular near miss that didn't take out that low that we've been expecting for a while for the price to come to the downside. So it's all moving in the plan, all the direction, structure just consistently plays out. And then we will look for a particular pattern before we get long or continue to the downside. So again, we know what we're looking for. CAD yen, that one's a little bit messier, leaving that one alone. Dollar CAD, an interesting area. So we know exactly what we're looking for to be able to take that short. So we'll leave that one alone for now. There's a few better ones that I like. Aussie yen is looking interesting for memory. Exactly, right? So Aussie yen. I already know this is the area that I'm interested in. So I'll just rein that in. Remember, trend lines, for those of you that are probably asking, right, do you trade on trend lines? It's not that we trade on trend lines, we actually trade structure and patterns. We use them as a guide. So for example, a trend line that just randomly intersects at something, I'm not just taking a trade based off of a trend line, that's a guide. It has to be in conjunction with a structure, otherwise we're not interested in it. So for example, you can see here, if we put a trend line, am I interested in taking a trade just because it hits that trend line? Not necessarily, it has to have a structure leading up to it. What's more likely is that this trend line is not valid and that we get an entry around here and we'll be looking for that trade. But as and when, I can already tell that I'm not going to be in this trade for maybe till next week because it's Thursday. Unless something happens from now until tomorrow, great, I'll take it. If not, Monday, Tuesday time. That gives me the clarity to sit back, relax, just focus on pound CAD for now, see if I can get a scale in. We're moving towards the lows, which is nice. So I'm actually going to lock in a bit more profit shortly. So we'll be looking at that trade at pretty much the double bottom is about 4 to 1, nice. So I'll be locking in about 2%, 50% of that move. There's no real pullback just yet. And then if we can break that structure, form a particular pattern, I'll then scale into the trade. If not, I'll leave that alone and then I'll see how pound Kiwi plays out today. But I think this is going to be a beautiful longer term play. However, just wanted to give you an insight as to how we kind of keep things very simple. So as you can see here, this is just the bare bones. Like, I'm not looking at anything complicated. What we do is simple. It always has been simple. It's what a lot of people were attracted to 5 years ago. We're about to step into our 5-year anniversary on the 12th of February, by the way. So thank you so much for everybody that has joined us on that journey, that has been part of Falcon, that's learned from us, grown, become 6-figure, 7-figure traders, and really tapped into their biggest trading goals. Speaking of that, big shout out to the man, Scott Reddick. He recently just passed his assessment phase, and so did Brian recently, and Brendan, and they're all moving towards their 7-figure goals. We have many more that are a few days away from passing their phase as well. And what we really wanted to do is make sure that when people get funded, they stay funded. This is one of the most important things. So Scott has just quadrupled his account and he'll be moving towards 6 figures and then on the road to 7 figures, which is going to be super exciting. But this is why our traders are doing this, because there's less margin for error, there's less guesswork. They're not just jumping into the charts impulsively. They've got discipline, they've got a great risk model, they'll keep themselves in the game. They won't overindulge and overtrade, is because the system allows them to actually trade effectively. So then they can trade high 6 figures and 7 figures, quit their job, do what they want to do, focus on their passion projects, but actually have the life of freedom. That's the whole point. Trading is not just about numbers, it's about what are you compromising, right? What are you compromising when you trade? Does it actually suit your lifestyle? Have you even thought about the way that you trade? How is that going to be in 3 to 5 years from now if you're just a slave to the charts all the time? That's not going to be good for your emotions. And to be quite frank with the numbers, it's more margin for error. And we've already seen in this industry with most people, they can't stick to risk. Even if they get funded, even if they have a big withdrawal, what happens? They lose their account in 2 to 3 weeks. If that doesn't show you why risk is so important, I don't know what is. So what I want you to take away from this, guys, is that if you want to get funded, stay funded, apply to a funded firm, they're great stepping stones, don't get me wrong. However, if you want to keep your funding and you want to stay level-headed, you've got to work on the inner game. You have to work on your mindset and make sure you've got great discipline and you set yourself up in a way that you can repeat it. It's not fluke, it's organized, it's structured, it's intentional. That is what you want. And I'm super proud of the guys that are scaling up, and myself, the team, the coaches, we're going to be pushing these guys every step of the way. So very excited. End of January, we just set the tone for this year of 2022 where we expect to see a lot of success. It's about momentum, guys. Q1 is where you can make a lot happen. Thank you for joining me in this episode. Let me know your #1 takeaways. And I just wanted to share with you a bit of things on the charts as how we keep it as simple, effective, and it's helping many people scale up. So have a successful day. I'll catch you in the next one.